Hello folks, over the course of the War Within, I've done a few meta achievement guides, links down below, in anticipation that the WoW dev team might well decide to follow the same pattern they did in Dragonflight and right at the end of the expansion sneak in an expansion-wide meta achievement for the War Within, no doubt awarding some really juicy mount. Those meta achievements generally involve a ton of work, but the more you've already got done, the less you have left to do. For patch 11.20, the developers have helpfully provided a mini meta achievement. This does not offer any concrete rewards, but it also doesn't have anything specially difficult to do, so I do think it is worth diving in and getting it all done. Now, before I dive into that main meta achievement, there are a few things which are surprisingly missing from the meta, and which I suspect will still very likely feature in any expansion-wide meta. Two of those are pretty easy, and I'll cover them just now, and the rest, including a separate meta achievement for Ecological Succession, I'll cover in a bit more depth later in the video. Those two easy ones are the Knife's Edge, which is the achievement for completing the campaign storyline. This you will probably already have done by the time this video goes live, as you'd really have to work quite hard to avoid doing it. And the second is Sojourner of K'aresh, which is basically to do all of the side storylines. These are not mandatory for anything, so you may have skipped quite a few. These quest lines are all pretty short, and the start of most of them are marked on the map with an exclamation mark. Now, if any of these quest givers seem to be missing at the marked locations, this is probably because they're in phase diving, and you just need to use the nearest phase diving portal and then head back to find them. Now, when I did Sojourner, I found that a couple of the storylines were not marked on the main map. You'll find the start for Priest of the Old Ways at this location, and for Chasing Echoes, you need to go to here. Anyways, let's get on with the main zone meta achievement itself. Remnants of a Shattered World is the achievement to get most of the rares in K'aresh, and as usual, this is the most awkward one to complete, especially as we have to get all of the rares and not just 10 of them. Thankfully, most of the rares do have a relatively short 15 to 20 minute spawn timer. I was able to get the majority of them done in just 90 minutes. As always, I recommend that you use the add-on Rare Scanner, which will sound an audio alert whenever a rare appears on the map. Rare Scanner can be very noisy by default, and if you just leave it like that, I personally find that you end up teaching your brain to start ignoring the alerts. To avoid that, I always recommend that you go through the settings and disable any rares and treasures that you don't need. That way, whenever an alert does fire, you know that it is something that you need to pay attention to. Now, while most of the rares are pretty easy to deal with, there are 5 that I do think are worth calling out. 2 of the rares are Grubber and Akana Munga Soza. These are part of the Warrant system. This is a series of 6 rotating weekly quests, and these rares are only active in the weeks where the respective quests are available. But the good news is that that weekly Warrant quest will allow you to summon the rare on demand. So basically, all you need to do is to wait for a week when the warrant is up, and then make sure that you get it done. The other 3 rares are Orith, Ixar, and Tharbs. These are elite rares which have a much longer shared spawn timer, which can be up to 3 hours. Unlike the other rares which only appear on the minimap when you are somewhat near their location, these rares act like they undermine weekly lockout rares, having a marker which appears in both the minimap and the main map whenever you are in K'aresh, regardless of what phase you're in. These rares do have quite a lot of health, which gives you plenty of time to get to them. I personally recommend that you go ahead and do all of the other rares first, and anytime an alert for one of these 3 comes up, you head straight over and get it done. Even if that does mean that you miss out on one of the minor rares spawning, the much shorter spawn timers means that it's not too painful to head back and catch the next spawn, certainly when compared to having to camp one of these ones for up to 3 hours. And staying in the subject of Tharbs, this rare spawns way up at the top of the Oasis Ecodome, and to get to it, what you need to do is to go to the phase diving portal near Venari. Then use that phase conduit, and once you enter the phase diving space at the location, you will find another portal along with a casting broker. Stand next to that portal and you'll get an extra action button. Hit that and you'll be punted up to where the rare is. Just be careful not to exit phase diving by accident when you do so. Treasures of K'aresh is mostly straightforward. The treasures all have very low respawn timers of 1 to 5 minutes. So if a treasure isn't up when you go to do it, just wait a minute or two for it to respawn. The treasures are roughly 50-50 between normal and phase diving space. This particular screenshot has all the normal treasures in green. I will put a link down below with a very useful wowhead comment with all of the locations. But there are a few of the treasures that are worth calling out because they are a little bit more involved. The first of these mailroom distribution requires you to click in a cart outside of the mailroom and then head into the room. Inside you will see 4 circles. Just stand in each of the circles and use your extra action button. After doing all 4, the treasure will spawn and give you a cool cosmetic hearthstone. For Gift of the Brothers, you'll find that in normal space. And what you need to do to get the treasure is to click on a lantern at this location. After clicking of it, you then need to go and find 3 ghostly brothers at these locations. Talk to each of them and then head back to your starting point and you'll find the treasure. The ancient coffer requires you to collect and read 2 items first. The first of these is a battered book at this location, and then a submerged bottle which you will find here. After reading both of those, the treasure will spawn up on the inside edge of the tower. Now, the other 3 I want to talk to is the bladed rifle of unfettered momentum, the petrified branch of Jaina, and the Safadi skiff lantern. These are all found in phase diving space, but they are in islands which do not have phase diving conduits to help you get to them. The easiest way to get to these treasures is to find an untethered Zaibuka. This is a potion that allows you to enter phase diving space anywhere you are, along with giving you increased jump distance. These potions you can find lying about in phase diving space, usually in and around the various camps. If you don't happen to have one, and they can be a bit of a pain to find, then you can also use things like Goblin Gliders, Warrior's Leap, Warlock Portals to reach them, or in the case of the Blade Rifle, abilities like Bubble or Glide which will allow you to survive falling damage. Moving on to Explore K'aresh, and this is the usual zone-wide exploration achievement. You'll very likely get the majority of these just by doing the campaign and side quests. The potential exception is Vanquisher's Wake. This is a small island off the beaten track here, and it is a dedicated PvP area, so do be careful when you head over. Bounty Seeker is basically to do the 6 weekly warrant quest lines that I mentioned earlier. Now, I'm not sure if these are on a strict rotation or are just random at the moment, but aside from some of the quests being a little annoying to do, they're mostly straightforward to do once you get them. Dangerous Prowlers of K'aresh is the traditional achievement asking you to pet some critters and requires you to hunt down 6 cat-like creatures. I'll link to a wowhead comment with the locations down below, with only one of them being in phase diving space. The one thing to be aware of is that you need to target the critter and then use the /pet emote. Even if the critter has an option to just click to pet, that does not count. Now, 2 of the critters, Little Miss Phaser and K'aresh, constantly appear and disappear in roughly 15-second cycles. The easiest way to deal with these is to set up a target macro and then just spam it as soon as they appear. Power of the Reshi is probably the easiest achievement as it's to max out the cloak, something that most of us are going to be doing anyway. If you're somehow behind on it, the easiest way to farm the threads that you need to get it upgraded is to run tier 1 delves, as each delve will give you a thread right up until you hit the weekly cap. And finally, Secrets of the K'aresh is to find and read a bunch of lore books that are lying around in normal and phase diving space. These are always up and very easy to find. And the easiest way to do this achievement is to install the handy notes War Within Treasures and Rares add-on. This will add a magnifying glass to the main and mini maps for each of the books. But if you don't want to install that add-on, then I will link to a Wowhead comment with all of the locations down below. And that's basically it for the zone meta. But as I mentioned at the start, I also think that we will want to knock off the Ecological Succession meta. But before I do dive into that requirements, I think it's worth going through a quick summary of how it all works. Ecological Succession consists of a series of 8 time-gated quest lines, 2 of which unlock every week, 1 with the reset and 1 mid-week. These quest lines will see you either collecting creatures from around Azeroth to repopulate the zone, or recruiting helpers to aid Venari's efforts, or sometimes even both. Your new recruits will from time to time offer you repeatable quests to help with the creatures. These quests will initially be a bit sparse, but as you recruit more of them over time, you will start to see more of the quests popping up. Each of the species that you recruit has 6 ranks, which you can check by clicking on the center console near Venari. On screen now is a list of the 6 possible states that you will see from the console. To rank up each species, what you need to do is to do the repeatable quests for that species each time they appear. Every time you complete one of those quests, you will upgrade that species 1 step, meaning that you will need to do 5 quests in total. It is possible to power level a species by using alts. Otherwise, if you prefer to do the whole thing in 1 character, this will take quite a while to get done. Otherworldly Ecologist just requires you to do all of the 8 main quest lines. Expertly Done requires that you get your 3 helpers. These are all recruited as part of the main quest line, so you'll basically complete this for free. Ecological Variety asks you to do the daily quests for all 7 species. This one is effectively time gated, as it does mean that you have to complete the story chapter for a given species before you get access to its repeatable quests. Ecological Stability is the achievement that requires you to fully rank up each of the species. This, as I mentioned earlier, will require that you do that particular species' repeatable quest up to 5 times. And finally, we have the Brokers Don't Care How You Win. As you progress the main quest line, you will eventually get quests to challenge the Slateback Alpha and the Zooming Necro Ray to a race. Once you've completed those quest lines, this will unlock the option to repeat the race in multiple difficulties, when each of the races in challenge mode, and you'll get the achievement. Now, you've probably noticed by now that there's been very little mention about specific phase diving achievements for the possible expansion meta. Now, the only candidate that I personally spotted is Phase Lost and Found, which requires you to collect a bunch of weapon transmogs from little orbs in phase diving. Collecting all of these transmogs also will award you a cool mount, so you'll probably likely also want to do that particular achievement anyways if you're following this guide. Now, the way this achievement basically works are that there are a bunch of purple orbs that spawn all over phase diving space. I'll post a link to a really useful Wowhead post with a list of many of the spawn points down below. Run through an orb and you have a 20% chance of getting one of the weapon transmogs for the achievement. When you do get the transmogs dropping, do make sure to click them and learn them right away, as you will only get duplicate drops if you don't learn the appearances. Get all of the appearances and the achievement and the mount will be yours. I personally found that the easiest way to do this achievement was to do a sweep of all the listed spawn points. I found that the full sweep took me about 40 minutes and I needed 3.5 of them to complete the achievement. However, there is an alternative way to do it, which is to camp a single location where there are 2 to 3 orb spawns nearby, and then realm hop by joining random groups. But I personally think that this ends up taking more time than just doing the sweep. And that's it, my guide to the main K'aresh achievements that I think are likely to end up forming part of any future expansion-wide meta achievement. If you think there might be other achievements out there that I've missed, then do comment down below along with any tips or tricks that you think could help other viewers to get all of this done. If you found this guide helpful, entertaining, or even just plain annoying, then do let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos, along with my other content, then do hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. And if you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me on social media for notifications. My links are in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.